All right, final session of CDS here. We're going to talk about Calamari Localization. I think this was something we talked about a little bit before, but this was Lee and Xian they were working on that. So if one of you guys want to talk about your progress and your efforts. There we go.
Hi.
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Good afternoon. My blueprint is Calamari Localization. Last CTS. Last CTS, we discussed it. So, from last CTS to now, I last the. I analyzed the code of Calamari gun class and think about the way to localization. I found the dashboard used R20N framework, so I tried to translation R20N string to Chinese. I followed the English EN directory to create a GH-Xian folder. For storing R20N string files. This file I just translated the English characters to Chinese. After that, I changed the default local for 20ctx per login.js file to gh-cn. This may be the default language to load when Calamari client is connected to Calamari server. It's the interface. And then after this changed, I can see the dashboard displayed Chinese. Yes, yeah. In addition, other work is to find English content which need to be translated. As only dashboard module completed 20 and supported in Calamari gun class, and so my knowledge of 20 and framework is not fully grasp, not so good. So I cannot modify the code to make it support R20N framework. So I only replace English for Chinese mandatory. At present, I implement Chinese translated and provide stable Chinese version. So recently, I tried some way to switch Chinese, English, and Chinese probably, but not successful. I saw Calamari submitted a commit and supported for multiple locals in GitHub. he changed the code in L20 and CTX plugin to support the Xian language. I think this is very useful. Maybe I can try to try. I'll try. So, also I saw the Calamari sequence in Trunker. One task is add a drop-down box for allow the user to select which language to display. I think maybe I can do this. But now I not implement this. I see the horizon is by setting a configuration parameters in file, so it can be sent to class when a request is received. Maybe we can select the default local language by this way.
Jaja, are you reading something that we can read while you talk about it? Do you have text of what you're saying?
Yeah, yes. I saw that the DNM Calamari Chinese video, the pull request discuss in it. You are discussing this whether Chinese video is pull request to yeah, I see you are discussing, but now I implement the Chinese video only replaced the English to Chinese, just translated it. So if we just merge it, it may be simply overwrite the EN video. Yeah. So only the dashboard module created the language resource file is the L20 and the strings in L20 point strings file. So we need to add Chinese resource file. Maybe maybe created a folder CHCN. I also see the Category submit the commit. Just I wanted to I wanted to know how to support the Calamari for multiple localization, such as English and ZH-Xian. I can only support the neither English nor ZH-Xian, so I don't know how to do. Maybe I will try this commit of category. I think it's very useful for me.
Let me kind of jump in here and sort of summarize where I think we are with this task. So before you started, we had several of the applications that make up the Calamari clients have localization directories and message catalogs in them. One of the ones that you changed, in fact, a dashboard has a strings L20N, and that's one of the ones you have modified to add Chinese text where there was English text. Those exist in dashboard and in the dist and app
Yes.
locations there. The idea behind having that location there for localization is that there will be a separate strings.l20n for every language we support. And right now that language is only English. So the first thing that we need to do is to take the translation work that you've done for that message catalog and move it to I guess it's ZHCN directory instead of an EN directory to represent the Chinese version of the messages file. And then beyond that, in the pull request that Gregory has put together, there are changes to specific templates throughout the source that need to be done to a message catalog instead of being done to the source directly. And it could be that those template messages, there may need to be some JavaScript code changes to make the templates obtain messages from the message catalog instead of having them hard coded into the template. I don't know for sure exactly what the JavaScript method for dealing with strings and templates is, but the basic idea still holds. Rather than being in the sources, you want all the messages to be in the message catalog file. So that's kind of the first thing about what we've got so far for the dashboard changes is that they need to be separated into a parallel structure with the English messages. Then past that, as I think you mentioned, there are a couple of other applications within the Calamari clients that also need to have the same process done to them to isolate their messages into a message catalog for English, and then to create a parallel version of them for Chinese. Some of that work is what Gregory tried to sort of organize in the list of Calamari issues that I posted to the chat here in Blue Jeans. That's this query that Gregory created to sort of grab up all those bugs related to localization that I think you have access to now, Jean-Jacques. It used to be a private query, but now it's available to everyone. So basically, that's kind of Gregory's idea of what remaining tasks we've got to do to head that direction, mostly, with the addition of one more issue that the original programmer, Yan Fali, came up with, that being that changing from Angular 1.2 to 1.3 supposedly makes this job somewhat easier. And I must confess that I don't fully understand what he's documented there, but I did take a look at the references in task 9879, and it looks as though Angular 1.3 may be worth investigating to see whether we can incorporate that before we actually merge the localization code. Have you had a chance to look at the query ID 66 list of bugs that Gregory put together? The thing that I posted to the chat there. Have you reviewed that list of issues? Do you know what I mean? So the link that I posted to the Blue Jeans chat, do you see that?
Something on trunk or
yeah, it's a tracker link.
Tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see the task in tracker.
Yes, you've seen that list before. So have you reviewed those issues? Do they all make sense to you?
Yeah. I saw it and I think there I also want to switch English and Chinese automatically. We also discussed whether we need to selected place for user to decide which language to display.
So there are two issues in that list of issues that relate to this. One of them is 9590, which is allow the user to select the locale, and there are several things that need to happen to make that work. One is obviously to provide the JavaScript coding to give a text box or a drop down or something that the user can modify. But the other is to figure out where to store that data per user, and that's certainly something we can do. It has also been suggested in issue 9861 that we may want to select this language automatically based on the accept language header that the browser sends. And I think a combination of both of those is what we will want to end up with for the final product.
Tim here. Can I just make a comment on remembering the language? I've worked on other web GUIs in the past where I'd automatically pick the language based on what the browser accepted, and it was sometimes helpful, but there were often cases where people found it annoying that they couldn't force a particular language.
Right. That's why I sort of think we have to have both.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully Kana Garage will be participating in the defining the user interface for selecting that, and he and Gregory will probably work together in how to make that persist per user, is my guess.
Yes.
And just to add to what Dan said, so in the dashboard part, I think we need to extract what is the current English text to extract and to put it in the appropriate resource files. So when the Chinese locally comes in, the appropriate file comes into the Chinese directory. So it should work fine without modifying the actual JavaScript code. So that I can help you out. So I can help in I can provide some samples on how to extract those strings to the resource file instead of modifying into the. That's what I told Gregory. So another thing in dashboard, work.
I'm correct in that some of that work has already been done, right? We have it.
Yeah, I've done some of it actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So Yeah, another thing is like, so the framework, you have to tell the framework like what are all locales we are supporting. So there is some work required there to register your local during the bootstrap time. That also I have done. So currently that's kind of work in progress. I'm working on it. So
I'm
once
sorry,
that is,
you said you're telling the framework at
yeah, so you
bootstrap
have to
time?
tell the framework. Yeah, you have to tell the L20N framework. These are all the frameworks this application supports. So it knows where the resource files are placed. So once tell the
Oh,
framework like this is the application user wants, it can go and look into the directory which it already knows. So that is the another thing in dashboard actually. So once these two are done, so dashboard should work without it should start supporting the Chinese locally without any other issues. So next comes to the another application part, which is the manage part. That is written in Angular JS, which currently doesn't have any localization support. So if you look at the issue list, there is an issue which talks about upgrading it to 1.3, which has a good support for the localization, which I'll be exploring soon. Once I think there might be some work required in the framework level to support multiple locals. Yeah,
oh, you're saying Angular doesn't support localization at all at the moment?
it does, but I don't think it's a full-fledged way. So
Oh,
I don't know. I'm not sure whether still we need to use L20N or Wrangler itself provides inbuilt that I am at to explore.
okay.
Mm. Mm. I think another important job is in implemented L20 and supported for manager modules because I because the Calamari class only dashboard module supported for 20 and framework. So the important thing, other important thing I think I need to learn more knowledge of 20 and framework and code. Uh, we also need to change manager code to make it supported 20N.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
This is the another task in Tracker. I think this is also is the important task.
Sure.
And it may be need to change a lot of code to a lot of code. So as this time I don't know how to I don't know how to change the code because something of because many because some of L20 and grammar I can't understand. So so but so this work I think is important and I want to do it. I want to do it and um, but this time I have some questions of how many I don't know how to make it supported changing and framework. But I want to try. I want to do it. After
So,
that,
so to summarize, the manage app needs to be localized. That will require some code changes. You don't quite know how to do it, but you want to help.
对，yes.
Is that it? Okay.
So if so if I know how to support the 20N, I will try my best to to translate of the dashboard to make it support the L20N framework. Then try to translate the English to Chinese and supported manager and make a manager supported Chinese.
I understand. I think that modifying the work that has been done so far for dashboard to make it clean will be something that you can start on immediately, and because there is a pattern to follow for where to put the parallel Chinese language message catalog, and there's also a pattern for the existing strings that are already in the message catalog, so that you can modify rather than modifying the templates directly, you can modify them to read from a message catalog in the same way that the rest of the dashboard code does. So I suggest that maybe finishing up the dashboard side of the localization would be a good sort of first middle term goal. Meanwhile, if what Kana Garage says is true, that the existing Angular doesn't do localization as well as maybe 1.3 might, he can investigate that at the same time and recommend the way that we ought to modify the manage application to start the localization process and start extracting out the English strings into a message catalog. Hopefully he can do that with your help and sort of share his progress with you as that happens. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, Dan, that sounds good. So another thing I would suggest is like the commit currently includes both the manage part as well as the dashboard part. The first thing what we can do is like split the commit to two parts, where the first commit will involve only the dashboard changes. The second commit, can have the manage changes. So anyway, at this thing, I don't think we'll be able to merge it in a single go. I think we have to do it separately. So first thing we can do is just split the commit into two. The first one will have the dashboard part. So that will be easier for us to progress.
And 3 actually, because there's a login file in there as well. Just the one.
There is a login as well.
Follow that, Zhao. Maybe split the commits into just dashboard and just manage and just login, so that we can treat them as independently. And by the way, we should reemphasize the work that you've actually done to go identify the English and translate it to Chinese so far is completely invaluable. Obviously, none of us speak Chinese, so that's excellent and useful stuff. We just need to shift it around a little bit.
Yeah, that's really a hard work. Yes.
One more question I wanted to discuss here. I want to ask here about. I noticed some hit information. Little information, such as their such as authentication failure information and the error message from Calamari server. Such this information is not related to Calamari class, but also related to server. So this information, maybe we cannot use L20N framework. How to
Maybe your question is there are strings that come from the Calamari server, and they also need to be localized.
Yes.
And yes, that is true. Um, so yeah, kind of garage. Maybe or someone else. Maybe you know how this is supposed to work for a request that goes to the REST API. Can it include a requested language basically in the HTTP headers? Is that how getting localized messages back from the server should work?
When a browser send a request, it will set there is an accept language header, which normally sets the browser sets. So to which the current local is, it will be ENUS or Chinese, whichever the browser local is, it will set and it will send the header. The server can read the header and respond it with that. Yeah, that's another thing.
Right. In the case where we've selected a language through some UI element, we would have to manage that in the JavaScript code that calls the REST API, but it's still the accept language header that needs to be correct.
Yeah.
And then, but of course, that implies that the server needs to also be localized and respect the accept language header. So yes, there is another chunk of work to make the server localized as well.
Yeah, that will be a different chunk of work. Sure. Yeah, you have to have all the messages in the server side. All the possible error message has to be localized. So you might have to have IDs to each messages. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on which framework we go with. Yeah.
Right. I think, maybe I'm just being optimistic, but I think that Django makes this relatively easy to do, except for, of course, the hard part of going and finding all the messages and then supplying translations for them.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah.
So one question is about how do you set the accept name? Will you check the locale? I mean the LC and underline name, some locale setting, or
No,
I
think the proposal is to either use the accept language that the browser has supplied, which is probably configured by the user in their browser, depending on what the browser is, or an override that we supply in the Calamari client's user interface, and that will be the authoritative source for what language should be used both in the front end and in the server. And what I was just discussing with Kana Garage was how the front end would tell the server which language to use. And I think it's the same mechanism there, that from the front end to the REST backend, it will send an HTTP header of accept language. But it will get that from either the original browser accept language or the override selection in the user interface.
Okay, so actually the language will be dependent on client request, right? I mean the actual language used is determined by the client with some special HTTP header, right?
Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible that would flow through from the environment when the browser is started. I mean, I would assume that some browsers set accept language based on the LC settings in the environment, but there will always be an override to select that differently, or if that process doesn't work.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing to add here is like, so once we have the user management in place, so with the accept language there is an issue. So when you change your browser, let's say from login from different machine, you will see it in a different language based on that machine settings. So once we have the user management in place, so we can map a particular local to a user. So user will be able to permanently set a local to a particular user. Yeah, that should be possible in future.
Oh, right. That's true. The UI override doesn't have to be a persistent setting for the user. It could just be for that session, but it would be nice if it were persistent for the user, at least optionally as well. Yes.
One question: if you translate error messages, how do you handle bug reports? I mean,
I can just barely hear you, Danny.
Oh, sorry. Is it better now?
No.
No.
And we're now identifying this as the Danny Algoff issue. heard most of what you said. I can just restate it. I think what you said was, if we translate all of the user interface to a different language, then how do we handle what happens when people file bug reports? And I think the only answer is we have to be manual about it, and either ask the bug submitter to translate those messages back to English, most likely, or perhaps we can search the message catalog in those cases and find out what the original or what the English version of the translation was, or who knows what the French version of the message was at some point. Is that kind of garage? You have much more expertise here than I.
I don't know. I'm not completely sure. Maybe it would help to have something like a button to say, print a message in English for bug report or something like that. Or I guess it's really hard to sit down and translate it back to find the original error message or something like that. I'm mostly concerned about error messages and not about the rest of the translations.
Yeah.
So if an error occurs and you translate error messages, at least include some code to be able to create.
I got it. What you? Yeah, I think I got what your question you're asking. Yeah, I think we know, so whatever the server message is thrown, they should have an appropriate error code. So we'll have an error catalog, like, so whatever the known error. So whenever we define an errors in the server side, we should have an error catalog like this error maps to this ID. So that will be easy to find out actually. Instead, you don't need to refer the exact text message. You can simply refer to the error codes, IDs. Yeah.
That's why those things are error messages. That would make sense. Good point. In fact, it would probably be worth filing an issue to track that particular concept. I'll make sure to do that.
Yeah, I can do that. I can file an issue. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Does that cover off on everything for this one, or is there still more?
It seems like we've got a good sort of view of where we are, and there's a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we've sort of got a plan to get there. Xian, does everything make sense to you? I'll take that as a yes.
Okay. Well, it sounds like everything. Sage, did you have anything you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
Nope. Just thanks, everyone. It was a very productive day and a very long day. So.